much for including me in this great program. I'm excited to present this paper titled Breaking Gender Barriers, Bringing Men into the Pink-Collar Jobs of the Future. Despite decades of strife for gender balance, we still live in a world in which men and women tend to concentrate into different occupations. Now, you'd probably expect me to discuss women's entry into male-dominated jobs, because that's what most papers and policies do. But they miss a simple fact. The reaching a balanced distribution of genders across occupations also requires men to switch into female-dominated jobs. And yet, this is not happening. Why? Of course, we want to know whether there are barriers that stop men from applying. But this is not enough. We also need to know whether men are going to be hired by employers, or if increasing men's applications will lead to a decrease in the talent of the applicants and thus no change in occupational gender shares. To provide evidence on both these dimensions, I built a partnership with one of the main UK employers in social work, which is a typical high-growth female-dominated occupation. I collaborated with the organization to design new recruitment messages that test the role of two determinants of selection: perceived gender shares and expected success in the job. After this initial shock at the recruitment stage, I let the hiring process unfold naturally through a double-blind design. I follow applicants over the hiring process and afterwards on the job for 2 years. This is to check whether it is indeed desirable for employers to hire more men. The design was co-generated with the organization. We wanted to increase the diversity of the applicants pool, but we needed to do it in a cheap way, which could be embedded within the organizational processes already in place to make it scalable, and that could avoid artificially modifying participants' behavior through novelty or experimental effects. This is the design we came up with. In the invitation to apply email for potential applicants, we included 2 independent manipulations of the contents. To shock perceived gender shares, we randomly showed a photograph of a current worker, who could be a man or a woman. Seeing a male photograph should make people think there's a higher male share in the job vis-a-vis a female photograph. To shock expected success on the job, we randomly disclosed the real performance of 2 previous cohorts of workers, one in which 89% of them had an outstanding performance and one in which only 66% of them did. Here is how we interpret this treatment. Seeing that everyone did well, 9 out of 10 people, means that there is little relationship between ability and outcomes, and thus returns to ability alone. Seeing a lower past percentage of high performance means that with your own talent you can have a higher impact on the job, and thus returns to ability are relatively higher. What do I find? I find no effect of perceived gender shares on men's applications. This is surprising. Think about all the policy proposals of portraying more men in nursing or teaching ads to attract more men in these sectors. What matters instead is that men believe they're going to have opportunities to make a difference with their skills in the job. Indeed, providing information of higher expected return stability increases men's applications by 15% vis-a-vis the alternative information. Those men that are attracted to apply by information of high expected return stability are also better on observables, they get more job offers, and they perform better once they are on the job, vis-a-vis those men assigned to receive information of lower expected return stability. The concurrent increase in the number of applications and in the quality of the applicants' pool in the treatment providing high expected return stability is consistent with the theoretical case of negative sorting of men in social work at baseline. The results for men thus suggest that employers are currently missing out on talent. There are simple low-cost tools that can attract talented men in the growing female-dominated jobs of the future. But contrary to common wisdom, expectations of rewards to skills seem to matter more than barriers related to the gender composition. Now, a natural question you might have is, what happens to women? Is there a trade-off between men's entry and women's exit? When women receive a male photograph, they're less likely to apply, by 7.5%. But this is positive news for the employer. Those fewer women that still apply when seeing a male photograph are more likely to accept the job, and they perform better once they're on the job. So all in all, putting all together these results, I show that breaking down the barriers to men's entry into social work might improve not only the diversity but also the quality of the workforce overall. The net effect for the economy is ambiguous, and this is an exciting area for future research. Thank you very much for your attention.